Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Welcome back, Spurs fans. Good to have you all with us with our second panel show of the week. Lots of changes behind the scenes at Spurs. We have a new director of football operations. Not sure if it's actually a direct replacement for Fabio Paratici, but we also have a new assistant coach for Thomas Frank. So we'll be talking about that. Also talking about whether some of these changes might mean that Thomas Frank is here to stay, at least for the time being. I wonder if he is actually under as much pressure from the board as he is with this fan base, because you could say with this fan base, we're almost on our last straw with the guy, if not already done with straws with him. And maybe it's just a different case and a different story with the board. Good to see some people in here with us. If you can, while you're coming in, please do smash a like button, get your comments in, and we will be happily to address them. We have the one and only Philip Brady making a return. Philip, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back, lads. It's been a while. So keeping a low profile over the last couple of months. The team hasn't done anything that would want me to be anything else but quiet. But let's hope we can onwards and upwards now that we've got this new background, whatever you want to call them, director of football, whatever we want to call them. And it's a new year. Let's hope things are going to get better.
Yeah, let's hope so. So far, I feel like it's just been the same old, but there are plenty of months left for things to change. And of course, we have Colin, who's been a regular on these Thursday panel shows. Just going to greet some people quickly in the chat, and then we'll get the show underway. Logan THFC is with us, and he's also sent in a super sticker. Do appreciate your generosity and support, Logan. And he sent it in as a popcorn emoji. I wonder if it's going to be as spicy as some of the recent shows. I think this one, Logan, we're going to be talking a lot about the changes behind the scenes, which I was joking to them. We're going to probably be having our best corporate hats on today when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur. But he is asking a question here. He's saying, guys, Anderson or Wharton, if you had to choose. Dave, everyone's talking about bringing in that progressive playmaker. Would you have a choice between these two?
I think Morton would be. Actually, I do like Anderson at Nottingham Forest, to be honest. Actually, I'd probably go Anderson. I actually really like him.
Okay. I've kind of been more the Wharton camp, but I could see kind of logic in both. I feel like Anderson, I might need to see a few more years out of before I start to maybe claim that the 80 million or whatever ridiculous price that he's being quoted at is actually worth it. Good to see you though, Logan, and thank you for the extra support. K32 wants to bring in Chabi Alonso. Good to see you, K32. C4, Tom Lowry. Big up to you, Tom. Hopefully everything's all right with you. Dermatron's in the house as well. We also have Tartan Spurs. Big up to you, lads. Good to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Frank needs 6 points from West Ham and Burnley. No excuses. I think he's already should be out the door, but I agree with you there, Tartan. Limpy Down Under's in the house. Another failed upload. It's all fun and games. Being a yid that it is. We have Wayne Bonner in the house. Good evening, folks. Hope you're well. If Frank's here till at least the end of the season, he needs to beat Wet Spam as well as Burnley, but he needs to be back with some quality players. I think most people could agree with that. Shem Tan is in here as well. Good to see you, Shemi. Hopefully everything's good with you. Mark News in the house, and then Binny Guy. Let's get this show underway, and I'm going to go to you first on this one, Philip, since it's good to have you back with us. Just your quick thoughts on some of the transfer business that's happening. Firstly, on Conor Gallagher. Thoughts on the signing there?
Yeah, I mean, Conor Gallagher, I watched him closely that season. He was at Crystal Palace on loan. I thought he was a breath of fresh air, a really good footballer. I think we should have signed him then, you know. I've seen a lot of negativity about his signing on a lot of different sites, you know. To be honest with you, I think he's a guy that can do a job for us. You know, I'm going to hold back a little bit on my opinion, but I think if he hits the ground running, he can be. He brings energy and a bit of life to what's, let's face it, been a very static and slow-moving midfield in recent weeks. And so I'm going to give him every chance and hope that he hits the ground running on Saturday. And like a 35 million, it's a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, it's not really a lot when you hear 100 million being bandied about for the likes of Wharton and 80 million for that forward of Anderson, you know. So let's give the guy a chance. That's all I can say, you know. And as for the other guy coming in, the young lad from Brazil, well, that's very much a hit and hope job. I mean, they're talking about him being the new, what's the name of that Brazilian fullback? I can't remember his name now. It's a chance. But then again, the other 19-year-olds in our squad haven't done too badly. So, you know, maybe. But hitting the Premiership at his age, it's going to take him a while to bed in.
Well, Dave and I have been joking, Philip, that he's actually probably now one of the senior members of the squad because we only seem to buy guys, you know, below the age of 21. But just quickly, Philip, I mean, you did mention that there has been criticism about the Conor Gallagher signing. Do you see any of the logic behind it, or you just completely disagree with it?
I think possibly some of it may be to do with the fact he's an ex-Chelsea player. That may have something to do with it. I think if he come from somewhere else, maybe. But like he's an England international, and you don't get playing for England unless you've got something going for you. I mean, I can understand some of the criticism. I know people maybe wanted a bigger name. Like I'd say, if we signed Adam Wharton, we would be all doing handstands around the place because he is a class act, and maybe we'll still get him. You never know. So I can understand the criticism, but I'm prepared to give the guy a chance. In a month's time, if he's been absolutely crap, then yes, I will criticize him, but I'm not going to do it yet.
Okay. And same to you there, Colin. Thoughts on the Conor Gallagher signing? You a fan of it, or you kind of in the camp of some that don't really feel like it was the right midfielder for us to go for?
Well, first of all, good evening to my fellow panel members and to everyone tuning in. Yeah, I'm a bit like the previous comments. I'm kind of 50-50 on. I do think he's probably a good fit. Not sure that he's a good fit right now because the team is a little bit dysfunctional. Hopefully he can help fix that dynamism in midfield. What I did think about, because he is kind of, I won't say young, I know 25 is young, but he's not 19 young. He does bring a lot of energy and verve and kind of plays with a smile on his face, which I think a lot of our players lack at the moment. He might bring a bit of that dynamism that we saw that one and only time when we saw Gray and Bergvall in midfield, and it kind of spiced things up a bit. I can't remember against whom we were playing, but it did seem to add a lot of dynamism. So hopefully he can do that. I'd be kind of pro his signing. I think it's a good solid signing. It's not as if it's yet another very well described Philip Hitton Hope signing, like our Brazilian inbound player. He's established. He's good on the ball. He's an international, as has been said. So yeah, I'd be overall positive, but again cautious, because you wait to see what happens. The weight of the Spurs shirt, the weight of the home crowd, the kind of negative energy there is around the place at the moment, and of course, you should go and put money on the fact that he'll be injured within 10 minutes of making his debut, having never missed a match. For his entire professional career, he'll pick up a dead leg that'll cost him 6 months. Listen, I don't want to jinx it. Touch wood, that doesn't happen. Yeah. No, I'm kind of excited to see it. But I just hope it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we need to do. The squad is pretty decimated. The squad is, it is unbalanced. And I know you'll probably get onto it in a minute, but I think it's a clear sign that Frank is here until at least the summer.
Can I just add to what Colin is saying there? What I would say is, and I was thinking about this sort of the other day, that, we're not used to signings coming in by now in January. We're used to sort of waiting for the last 2-3 days. So it does actually put us in a good position for the rest of the window to be able to add to it. Now, whether the board actually follow through and do or not is another thing coming. But when, usually in January, we're still sitting here at 2-3 days to go, waiting to sign players and sort of throwing around feelers just to get anybody in. So it actually does give us a bit more chance to get more done.
No, usually the winter window for us starts around January 28th or something like that, and then we actually finally start seeing rumors, let alone actual transfers being done. And also, maybe we'll chat about this. We've also made a few moves, Colin, in terms of transfers potentially leaving. We saw Brendan Johnson going. We're seeing some rumors of other players being moved out of the club as well. I think we even got rid of, I'd be amazed if you remember that he actually technically is on Spurs' books, but it looks like Alejo Valise has been leaving. So there is maybe some
problem with that, though. There's a big problem there.
Yeah.
Say that again, sorry, Phil.
There's a big problem with the Valise transfer. Apparently, it's something in the contract that he's playing for Rosario at the moment.
That's right.
If he plays more than 50% of the games for Rosario, they don't have to release him from his contract. And so chances are Spurs forgot about that, and now it looks like he'll have to stay where he is.
I mean, I forgot that he even is on Spurs' book, so I was kind of reminded of his existence just the other day. But maybe I'll just go to you on this one then, Philip, and of course get Colin on this. Radu Dragusin's agent has confirmed that he could be leaving the club this week, or at least sometime soon, with rumors of him going to RB Leipzig or Roma potentially. Are you okay with letting someone like Radu Dragusin leave the club?
Radu Dragusin's agent has been mouthing that since five minutes after he joined the club. He's literally that's been a common thread from that guy the whole way down the road.
He's a pest.
Spurs have come out and said nobody's leaving. Now, unless they change their mind on that, I really think we can't afford to let him go, because if we get another injury, Like, I mean, let's face it, we're dropping like flies at the moment. He's only back from a long-term injury, and I think he's fresh. I think we should keep him. And never mind what the agent's saying. The club needs a good centre back there, and he is a good centre back. Okay, he's not first choice, but if Romero gets another red card or gets injured or whatever, and Van de Ven, we're down to what do you call him, Danso, and that's it.
Yeah,
Ben Davies.
Yeah, I mean, it's
anyone.
Yeah, Takai, I think, is being linked with a move out of the club, from what I can tell. But
I think he's gone already, hasn't he? He's gone already somewhere on loan.
Dakota Takai, yeah. I agree with Philip. I was actually going to, when you came to me, Jack, I was actually going to big up how positive I felt about that statement that was made by the club that absolutely no first team players were going to leave. And I thought that's brilliant. They're actually just coming out and declaring it. We understand the situation we're in. Nobody's going to leave. But like, people way down the pecking order leaving was even more positivity for me, because I thought they're going to try and get rid of some of the tail, the fluff, the 20%. But I'd be very, very surprised that agent, he's a pest. That agent, Philip has said that so well. He has been talking about a transfer out since the minute that man signed. But absolutely, I would take it as a negative if they let somebody of his caliber, who's yet to really prove himself in the Spurs shirt, in my opinion, and get a good run under someone like Frank, who might be able to utilize him a little bit better than maybe Ange did, or sorry, the system did, rather than picking on managers, the Ange system. I'd be raging if they let somebody like him go. I'm still mesmerized that we let Brendan Johnson go. I still am. I mean, not that I object to the signing. I object to the timing of the timing of the sale. I object to the timing of the sale. It could have gone in the summer.
I would say in the usual Tottenham routine, that statement, nobody is leaving the club during the summer, during the winter transfer window, in small print underneath, unless you
add 5 million to the time.
Unless you pay us way over the odds for them.
Yeah. Now, potentially, I mean,
hopefully it's right, but I can see somebody leaving, really. I can.
It could be a case where they're putting out a statement maybe to sort of protect the better players, basically saying none of you are going anywhere, but maybe if they bring in more towards the end of the window, they might let one or two go. Because to be honest with you, with how long Radu Dragusin's been out and stuff, and with the 20-odd games he had last season and stuff like that as well in a row, I'm not sure what he actually adds to the squad overall. I'm not even sure if he's going to be fit enough to be able to call upon if Romero if Romero gets injured or if Van de Ven gets injured. For me, to be honest with you, while there's two clubs interested, I'd have no problem letting them go. Ring up for Skovich, tell him to get his ass back here. That's the way I would go about it.
You have to do that. You have to bring somebody back. You couldn't just have 3 centre backs in the club. You need to have at least 4.
You don't think Thomas Rank has done his very best job to get us out of many competitions as possible for these guys to play. But do you think we could get away with just having Ben Davis, Kevin Danzo as the auxiliary kind of backups at the moment? Is that something we could get away with now pretty much only Champions League and Premier League left to play for?
Danso, yeah. Davies, I don't think so. Davies, okay, great squad player, playing at left back or whatever. I don't see him as a centre back replacement for Van de Ven or Romero. So I don't know. I mean, I think what's probably going to happen, Dragusin will be gone in the summer anyway, regardless if he doesn't go now.
Yeah,
probably.
He'll move on in the summer. But I would just keep him at the club, wrap him up in cotton wool, put him on the bench, bring him on when we need him. Rather that than having to go to an emergency centre back at some stage,
But I agree with that. I think we should be adopting the Donald Trump economics here for Tottenham, and it's Tottenham first, like America first. You know what I mean? I think anybody coming in to try and take anybody that we might potentially need, with respect to the point that you're making, and I'm enjoying the cynicism. Thomas Frank has done a good job of taking us out of every competition we might need them for. I still think we should be looking to double down now and get the second half of the season on track and do a good job there, and not be distracted by selling, I'll say quality players like Dragusin. He is blood and thunder. He reminds me of a more elegant version of Rodin when he used to play for us. Doing a great job at Leeds now, but it's to me, it's Tottenham first from now until the summer. Tottenham first.
Yeah. We do have some other questions of business that we're going to get to. I just want to welcome in some people. I did agree actually with Free as Wayne or Way as me saying Paulinho could fill in for center back. We have actually seen that this season. I did space on that.
Great
That's
point.
actually a decent point actually. So maybe we could get away with a departure of Radu Dragusin. I agree with Philip and Colin that if he's already going to get sold in the summer anyways, maybe if you can get a good bit of money out of him in January, would make a lot of sense. Maybe just to get rid of him now, and it'd be nice just to get rid of that agent. I completely agree with your guys' sentiments there. Ian Ferguson, always good to see you. Tom THFC, always good to see you as well. Everybody, I'm seeing plenty of people pile in the house. If you can't force again, do smash the like button. Does help out the channel a ton. And if you disagree or agree or just want to add in your own opinions and have it shine on screen, feel free to do so as a super chat. And if you want to become a channel member, it's pinned at the top of the chat. We will be answering your questions at the end of the show. But we're going to move on to a new hiring at Tottenham Hotspur and what that might mean. Good to see you, DB. Hopefully everything's good with
and
you.
Tim Man as well. Good to see you, Tim Man.
One of the best profile picks there is. But John Heitinga has replaced Matty Wells and will mainly be taking on a role with the Spurs' defense. He's become one of the new first-team assistant coaches at Tottenham Hotspur, and Thomas Frank apparently interviewed him over the December kind of festive period, but with kind of the addition of John Heitinga. Dave, do you feel like this is potentially a sign that Thomas Frank is here to stay, or is it just standard that, we had to replace an assistant manager? What do you make of that he's brought in someone?
To be honest, I would think the club have weighed up every sort of decision. When you look at some of the big clubs like Real Madrid, Chelsea, Man United, Saka managers, and they brought in Liam Rosner. I don't know, who did United bring in the end? Was it Carrick or Fletcher?
They brought in Carrick, yeah.
Carrick. And then you look at Real Madrid, they've given the job to Arbeloa. It's clear all the big clubs are sort of waiting until the summer. And these clubs sort of already had the guys within around the ranks and in around the club to be able to go and get that caretaker manager. When you look at Tottenham, do we? I'm not quite so sure, unless you're maybe looking at Mason, who's recently out of a job. But apart from that, so I think the club have weighed it up, said, look, we may as well give them a go until the end of the season now at this point, see how it goes. And, with that, I think, we need to back them. We need to be bringing players in January, regardless of the manager anyway. But, in order to do that, I think, they're just letting bring in these more staff to try and help them along the way. At the end of the day, as much as I don't think the guy is good enough for Tottenham, I don't think he understands Tottenham and what the fans want. And I certainly don't like the way he's treated fans this season. And I do think, he should have been gone by now. You look at Nuno, he was gone. 2 wins in our last, 13 games. It's nowhere near good enough. But I'm also not anybody but Frank. It's going to be at the right time for the right person. So I think when you weigh up the situation, I think it's just clear that this is going to be a marriage of convenience till the end of the season, or Thomas Frank has to the end of the season to maybe prove himself and see if he can, get this trending in the right direction for the second half of the season. And then I think the club would probably weigh it up then at the summer what they want to do in that regard, because it's not just Thomas Frank you're sacking. Some of his coaching team is going to have to go with him as well, which means, it's big money, maybe money that you don't want to allocate to that in January. You prefer to allocate towards transfers. But around Johnny Heitinga, he has been brought in to work with the defence specifically, which again worries me to a certain degree. Why not go and get a coach to work with the forward players, which is our big problem?
I think that's Justin Cochran's role, to be honest. It's not really been very impressive so far.
Well, I mean, who did he play for that he knows all this great stuff about attacking anyway? But when it comes to Johnny Heitinga, and this is my huge concern. It's like everything is focused on defense. His big problem is scoring goals. Even if we do keep a clean sheet or keep the team down to 1 goal, we still don't have enough up the other end to go and win the game. And that's where I think he's missing it. And again, I thought he already worked on the defense for the first part of the season. That's what he told us he'd done. He came in here to work on the defense pre-season and up to a certain point throughout the season until the attack became a massive issue, and then he switched focus. So I don't really understand it personally, to be honest with you. But apparently, he's got a wealth of experience. He was head coach at Ajax, worked with Arne Slot at Liverpool. He's got a wealth of experience, and he used to play for Aston Villa and teams like that as well. So, and supposedly he's a very good character, which is all pluses. But I'm not sure what great effects it's going to have and how much of an effect it's really going to have on the team, considering our problems are in other areas.
Yeah. He's been successful, Colin, as an assistant coach. He was on the staff of David Moyes when he was doing quite well for them at West Ham. He was also Arne Slot's assistant coach just last season in their Premier League title campaign. But whenever he's been a first-team coach, it's not gone too well for him. He's gotten sacked from Ajax twice. This season, he had a terrible run of form with Ajax. They finished in the bottom of their Champions League grouping, and he pretty much just was signed up for like a 2-year deal, but then got sacked within like 5 months. So do you think his signing, first of all, is an indication that Thomas Frank could be staying for a while, or do you just see that as just standard business, like you need to replace the assistant manager?
Probably a little bit of a little from each, I would think.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you definitely need to, if you've got a vacancy, you need to fill it. Just put my business hat on for a minute, or the corporate hat, as we talked about. I think bringing in somebody like that who might be, a big character is probably needed. And leaving things the way they are, leaving Frank aside for a minute, we're just going to beat the same drum unless something changes. So something changes by making new signings, which we've done, and changing the management team, not necessarily the head coach, or bringing in new experience or a new voice will help, I hope. But as always, it just remains to be seen. It's like a recipe when you're cooking it up. You don't really know what it's going to be like until you taste it. So we need to wait and see what this tastes like after he's settled in. But certainly, it's my view that Tottenham are not in the mood to change Thomas Frank, despite the unrest.
Yeah.
And if he does get a run of form, 2 or 3 wins, we all have a different outlook. We'll all be questioning whether it can be sustained, obviously, but winning games changes the outlook completely. So I think that they're betting on he can get a run of form together at some point, and they are going to help him with signings. I think the reluctance to change is because there has been significant change everywhere else. I know he's gone not a long time, but he's gone a good period now. But a monumental change like taking Daniel Levy, who had his finger in every single pie. I'm sticking with the cooking theme here. Throughout the club, I can tell you from experience that level of character and level of person that was that has been in the club and controlled every facet of the club. It takes a lot of time to adjust to that. And certainly you hear anecdotally that they've made a lot of changes in other departments to heads of other departments. All these guys are going to need time to get to know each other, get to work together, and get to gel together. And I don't think that they think, changing Thomas Frank right now is going to help that gel any quicker or any better. Because, what do you do? We've seen it. We must have one of the highest bloody management turnovers in the Premier League. But, what are we going to see? What's the reality here for all of us on this panel? I kind of agree with I do agree with what Dave is saying. It's not change for change's sake. It's change when we think it's the right moment and the right person to change for. If we changed in the morning for another manager of whatever level of quality, we will inevitably probably get a new manager bounce, and everybody think it's great for 2 or 3 games, and then the same rot will set in. So we do need somebody to stay the course and to change the direction of this club. And it does, unfortunately, in any organization, need time to gel. But we have in this particular entertainment industry that football is, it's a results-driven business. We are not getting results. And we are charging our fans extortionate amounts of money. And all those things add up very, very quickly to, like you see, there's a protest now coming for the West Ham game. So I'm all for putting the right characters in there and giving it a bit of time to see can they get in, gel, and make a change, a positive change to the team, the positivity of the team, and ultimately results.
No, I agree with a lot what you said there, and I think that is unfortunately the case, that there's just so much managerial turnover right now that it's kind of hard to make that change. It's pretty much a huge dearth of any sort of actual available candidates that you feel like could just take on the role right now and do a lot better than Thomas Frank. I feel like at the moment almost anybody could, but maybe it's not the best time to move, as sad as it might be the case. But Philip, what are your thoughts on this new assistant manager? Does that mean that Thomas Frank is here to stay, or am I reading too much into it?
I'm thinking the only reason Thomas Frank is still in the job is for 2 reasons. One, there's no obvious replacement that we can appoint at the moment, right? And the second reason is, like a lot of clubs, the World Cup is coming up. And there is going to be managerial casualties at a national level after that World Cup. You're going to have a lot of managers getting the boot because their countries didn't actually perform like they should. And that means the pot's going to be a lot bigger come the summer. Pochettino, for example, could be free in the summer to come back. So I think they've decided they've replaced the undercard, if you like, at the club. They're leaving Frank in charge for the rest of the season. Not that I agree with that. I think he should have been gone 2 weeks ago. But he'll be there till the end of the summer, or the end of the season, and then we will probably get one of the national managers from the World Cup. And to be honest, I would not be sorry to see Poch coming back. I've always said the thing, he'll be back at some stage. Now, whether it's this summer or whenever, I don't know. But I think we're stuck with Frank, and we can only hope that the new players coming in, the new backup team that he's got, will get us at least up the table. You know, I don't want to be scratching around 14th, 15th position come the start of April. Like, you know, I know we all know what happened last season, that we more or less give up on the league to win the Europa League. You know, that can't happen this season. We're not going to win the Champions League. It's the only other cup we're left in. So we've got to improve things in the league, get the players in. Thomas Frank, tell him what a lovely job he's done. Come next May. I said, right, bye-bye. Who's next?
Yeah.
But if he does put a run of results together and we see proper football as we want to see it, would your attitude or outlook change at that stage?
No, I think I like him gone.
Yeah, okay.
I'm also at that point. I thought he'd have to go on an exceptional run between now and the end of the season for me to really change my mind. Look, I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't the biggest fan of the appointment in the first place. And it's not like I just hated the guy. I put a lot of my reasons why and stuff like that. I thought they were fair. But, you know, for me, it's just what he says in the press conferences and stuff. He's not exactly inspiring. Yeah, maybe he is too honest to his own.
No, he is too honest. He's way too honest. Yeah,
but like even the popping at fans and stuff, like, you're never going to succeed long term.
That's pressure.
You do that. Yeah, it is pressure, and you can see he's aged 20 years already. You can see it in him from his first interview to now, and that's what pressure does to you. Yeah. A lot of people crack under pressure. You know, every great person cracks under that amount of pressure, but I just think, largely what we've seen this season and style of play, what he said in the press conferences, how he's rattled fans and stuff, I just think too much has gone on for him to be long-term Tottenham manager. And our motto is to dare is to do, which means, we want to be brave. We want to go after teams. We want to go and have a go. That's the way Spurs fans traditionally have preferred their football to be played. And unless he adapts, which I don't see him doing, then, I don't think he's going to get a lot of the fans back on side, because you got to remember, this was a hugely popular appointment at Tottenham Hotspur. It's not like it was divisive like Postecoglou or Jose or Conte, where they already had haters before they even walked in the door because they're that divisive. This guy was hugely popular, and somehow he's managed to lose, I would argue, probably about 80% of the fan base at this point. So I just don't see a way back for him. But I think you just got to keep right out to the end of the season at this point. I don't. If they were to sack him and bring in someone like Harry Redknapp, I think many Spurs fans would get behind that and enjoy the roller coaster for the next few months. But I don't see them doing that. So
that would be some roller coaster with Harry Redknapp back in. Jesus, wouldn't it? But you're not thinking the writing's on the wall for Frank. Yeah, but last Saturday when the teams were being announced for the Villa game and his name was announced, he was booed by the fans. I mean, if that happened to me and I was manager, I'd just say, right, lads, that's it, I'm off. He knows he's lost the fans. Yeah. He knows he's lost them.
Yeah, but wins changes. Change attitudes. I'm not saying it's likely to happen. Yeah. I wish it would, but
why don't you answer your own question? What would you do with Frank if he was to get it up and running between now and the end of the season?
Oh, me? Oh, sorry. I lost the thread of that. Apologies. Yes, I think if the football was right, I'd keep him. Fair. Right, because I think the one thing we've lacked is stability in this club, and Levy always had the option to sack someone when it became too obvious. So all the same problems are still there. We still pay too much money for tickets. We still pay, we're still treated as legacy fans. Mm-hmm. They've ruined the atmosphere in the stadium by trying to corporate-ize it too much, etc., etc., etc. All those things still exist. And an underdeveloped squad, missed opportunities with players, etc., etc., etc. Right. We know all of that. So if we were to see in the second half of the season, and remember the transfer window's not closed yet, so hopefully we get in more, and maybe the football changes. Maybe. And if it does, and we see it all going very well, and we get a good run in the Champions League, and we start to climb up the table, then what would be the point in pulling the plug on that? Because every time you do this, you go back to zero. every single time. Now, I know the club is trying to push to a modern structure where taking out the head coach, you just get another one in and everything should stay the same. But it's not quite the same thing when you include human dynamics. You go back to zero and you nearly start again, unless you're Real Madrid or Barcelona or Manchester City, where you've got the elite of the elite of the elite. So in my view, if you saw something in him, which we haven't seen yet, and I'm not advocating that you should stay, it's only when we get to the end of the summer, because I'm telling you, they've decided to back him. They're going to back him. He's going to get to the summer, or else he would have been gone at the end of December.
100%.
There's no doubt about that, right? So let's all let him at it now. Let them at it. They're the ones in charge. They're the ones with the deep pockets, hopefully, to go and sign some players. And we have to sit here and suck it up then to the summer. And then we can turn around. And by the way, huge Poch fan. If he came back tomorrow, he was the only manager in my lifetime where I felt so proud to be a Spurs fan, because even when we were beaten, we at least put in a shift, and that's the way I want to feel again. I want to feel proud of my team, not just like you're just on the cusp of epic failure every single time, or glorious failure, whatever you want to put it. I'm sick to the back teeth of that. I've spent my entire adulthood being called Spursy. That was the only time nobody would speak to you in that term, was when Pochettino was there. And even in the glory of winning the European Cup last year, your league form, there was always a chink in the armor. There's always a little bit of a bad taste. Like your league form, you nearly got relegated, only for the fact that 3 other teams were so poor, you were relegated. There's always something weird going on in Spurs. We cannot just have something normal and feel good about our team. What's it's not much we ask for. But yeah, if he came back, I'd be delighted. I know a lot of people say don't go back, but he was the only one that made me feel really, really good about being a Spurs fan.
Mm-hmm. Just want to take this from K32. He's just sending a lot of love. He's saying, love this channel. Thanks, Dave and Jack, for all your hard work in the background. Do really appreciate you, K32. That's very generous. And
very kind.
Hopefully you are enjoying the show today. Like I said, it's not maybe going to be as spicy as previous ones, just because we're going to be chatting about some of the new additions around the club and everything. And of course, that's kind of what there is to talk about. Maybe after, if things do go poorly against West Ham, might get more popcorn out, like Logan sent in earlier. Appreciate you, K32. And if anyone wants to follow in his footsteps, feel free to do so. It does help out the channel. And again, do smash the like button while you're in here. Everybody, just to add to the Thomas Frank thing, I do feel like it was very brief, to be honest. But I think in the beginning of his tenure here, in the first few games, maybe it was like the first 5 or 6 games, you could actually see something to get behind, because the style was very different to Ange Postecoglou's, but he was picking out results, and he did get some convincing ones against PSG, where we were just minutes away from winning that and pretty much dominated them almost all game. And then also against Man City, against West Ham. I don't remember the last time we beat West Ham 3-0 away from home. I felt like that was a very good performance. And what was kind of consistent in that was that Spurs were really defensively solid and then absolutely lethal from set pieces. And for some reason, after maybe the Bournemouth game, that's kind of faded away. And I think maybe fans would be behind Thomas Frank if that continued maybe for a bit longer. But right now, it's almost like even though the results are terrible, the football is somehow worse than even the results. And that's why I think he has nothing going for him. And that watching Spurs is dreadful. And then the form is also dreadful. He needs to figure out a way to do one or the other. But I do kind of feel like the writing's on the wall. Like Philip said, it does feel like it's almost inevitable that at some point he is going to have to be relieved of his time here. We're going to push things on, though, too. The fact that Tottenham Hotspur have now announced a new director of football operations, not director of football, but someone that apparently is not really here to replace Paratici. At least that's by the looks of things. Yeah, that's what even Tom Barclays has said, that Raphael Morrison is here to be something else than maybe Fabio Paratici's replacement. This is what they had to say. It's a newly created role as part of the club's approach to build a modern, high-performance football structure to drive long-term success. Rafi has led football administration, player care, and training ground operations, and will join the club's executive leadership team. A key part of his role will be overseeing the women's football, where he will continue to drive a renewed focus and ambition for Tottenham Hotspur women. I'll go to you on this one first, Philip. At Manchester City, he was the director of football transactions, but doesn't look like there's any mention of him taking charge of that at Spurs. Do you think Johan Lange will actually be in charge of player transactions once Paratici leaves in February, or do you expect Spurs to hire someone new to replace Paratici if this guy isn't apparently his replacement?
No, I think Johan Lange will probably take it on, which fills me with a lot of trepidation, to be honest with you, because I don't think, I mean, they're still dancing in the street at Villa Park when he left them, and he's hardly pulled up any trees since he came to Tottenham, but he'll probably replace Paratici or Paratici, whatever way you want to pronounce it. So I'd say this guy is coming in from Manchester City on a specific role, as you said there. And also, I see there's been another appointment now. I know this appointment was announced back in October, but I think he's been on gardening leave since that. This Dan Lewin is coming in as performance director. I presume that's to get the little bits off the back of the shirt after every game, and how many yards did you run today, and how many, this, that, and the other that you do. So that's a good enough thing, because I mean, I think it was Bright who revolutionized that end of the thing by performance-related stuff. I mean, look at the players Brighton have brought in. No one's ever heard of them, but they're world beaters nearly. Punching above their weight, I should say. So maybe that's why that guy has been brought in. But no, I think when Paratici goes, Johan Lange will step into his shoes. And that does not fill me with anything.
Oh. Looks like Philip might be cutting out a bit there. We'll just have Colin.
The Irish internet.
He was making some good points. We'll just have you carry on from it there, Colin. To be honest, I can't really tell what the guy actually will be doing that we'll be noticing as fans from the outside looking in, Colin, because he's going to be in charge of things like player care, training ground operations, football administration, which just seems like a very broad term. I don't really know what that even has.
Excel spreadsheets.
And then also he'll be taking part of, driving, of course, focus and ambition around the women's team. So a lot of it, I just don't really know if we'll really notice in terms of his.
We're not going to notice. The cynic in me says, the fans think we're not busy and we're not organized and we're not doing things. Look at this guy we've got in. Isn't he great and shiny and new? That's what the cynic in me says. The cynic deep down says, we've got someone in to maximize the revenue stream from the women's team. That's what that makes me feel like. Look, it remains to be seen. I don't think we'll, us guys sitting here are going to make, it's not going to make a pin's difference to any of us. It feels like he's going to be looking after the fluffy pillows and the women's team. And I hate to be cynical about anyone's role, but it doesn't feel like it's going to make any significant difference or inroads into the way we operate for first team operations. So yeah, comfy socks, comfy pillows, and nice yoga mats.
Yeah. Just want to take this from Tango bin Al-Shid. Welcome, Manchester City compliance guy.
That's so funny.
Redefining the term income so we can jack up our squad cost ratio with that sweet Beyonce money. Absolutely class comment.
That's
maybe
class,
the last comment of the night. Also, I meant to get to this earlier from C4. I thought this was funny. Johnny Heitinga. Now that's a blast from the past. My friend's ex-wife was his first child's nanny in London way back in 2013. Also, he was a very good Everton player. Well, if they're still looking for a nannying gig, maybe now that he's back in London, you could hit him up again. But let's talk to, I think, Dave on this one. I mean, do you feel like there's going to be any actual noticeable impact of this new addition, Dave, to the hierarchy? And also the fact that he's not Paratici's replacement at all. Do you think they will be replacing Paratici, or will they just give the job back to Johan Lange?
Well, I think as long as Frank is here, I think Johan Lange will be here. They're from the same country. They work together, I think, before in Denmark and stuff like that. So, I think that'll be a pairing made. And I think it is right to have a director of football that does have a relationship with a manager, because at the end of the day, I hear Sky talking about it today, but this is something that I've been trying to speak about for a long time now, that it's not the manager making the transfer and decisions. It is the director of footballs. That's their job. They're the ones that are in charge of talent ID and bringing them in here. So at the end of the day, the manager has to have a good relationship so that he knows what the manager needs to be able to support him and hopefully yield it into results on the pitch. But with this guy, he's essentially what Scott Munn was, really, at the end of the day. Scott Munn was brought in to, come over the women's team and stuff like that. This guy will have no say in transfer business whatsoever, by the way. He literally is just the definition of a director of football's operation. He manages the crucial administrative, logistical, and organizational aspects aspects of a footballing program, acting as the bridge between coaching staff and the wider organization to ensure smoothly daily functions, allowing coaches to focus on the team's on the pitch performances. Key duties include managing travel, so the likes of your preseason tour and all of that sort of shit. Budgets, so to tango bin our sheets, comment is just a new way to say, we're interested, we're trying to buy, and everything else that all these other guys have done. Schedules, again, just travel to making sure that we're arriving to games and all that on time. Compliance with league rules and UEFA rules and stuff like that. So that's basically all this guy is here to do. Now, you would hopefully think, that takes maybe something out of Paratici or out of, Johan Lang's book, so that he can just concentrate on talent ID and stuff like that, because you would assume someone in the club is having to pick up these duties now. So he's just taking away some of the small menial headaches, really, that maybe some of the people that are already doing it don't really understand, or maybe Sharon in the office is doing it or something like that. So basically that's what this guy is here for, really. And that's it at the end of the day. And to, Colin's point, make sure they got the right fluffy pillows and the Egyptian cotton bed sheets and everything else for the hotel they've got there and everything
400 else. Thread count Egyptian cotton sheets.
Yeah. So
that's basically... I doubt there was much compliance going on in Manchester City, so that was something I'll have to be taught to him.
Yeah, that's potentially why he was also in charge of player transactions, right? So you wonder if that's why he's being given such a different role. That's the only thing that I find surprising too, is that it seemed like at Manchester City he had a very different role to what he's now having at Spurs. Really, it seems like his now is a lot more around the clerical side of things, like Dave was mentioning earlier. But with Manchester City, he was literally in charge of kind of the budgeting around player transactions and seemed to take a big role in that. So this role that now he has at Spurs just seems vastly different, at least from what I can tell with my little research that I've done before this. So just something to take note of, everybody. There is a new person at the club, and it only seems like since Daniel Levy's departure that Spurs just keep adding more and more people to the hierarchy of just sort of the running of the club, which is potentially a good thing, because we know that Daniel Levy almost had too many hats on at once, trying to basically do everything at the club, and that seemed to slow things down. Also, to a degree, maybe gave him more power than he probably should have had. The other downside, maybe having this many people around the club is sometimes, right, it's a lot of yellow tape or that comes with maybe decisions. It seems like there's going to be a million committees and a lot of bureaucracy around sort of how Spurs will go about things. Whereas in the case of Levy, when there's kind of only one guy doing everything, potentially you can get things done a little bit sooner. So there are positives and benefits and negatives to both, really.
With all these other roles that we've created and the people we're bringing in, it really shows how much of a stranglehold and how much of a directive Daniel Levy really had on this football club.
He was the club.
Exactly, he was the club over all aspects. Now, I know you said, Jack, it's a good thing, but it's only really a good thing if it starts translating to results on the football pitch. If not, then it just looks like too many cooks are spoiling the broth then after that, if it doesn't start translating on the football pitch.
No, I definitely agree with that. Unless anyone else has anything more to add on this, I think we'll move on to another bit of business that's come out, which has to do with the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. They have a meeting with the THFC directors here, and I'll try to zoom in on this graphic for you guys, but it looks like they're going to be using a survey that they've asked the fans to comment on, but they're going to be talking to the THFC directors about 5 principles that they're going to be measuring the club by. One of them being a commitment to winning, investing to the level needed to secure league and cup success. The other one was having to do with attracting and retaining talent, build a transfer policy and competitive wages to secure top players. They also want to measure them by their future proof of success, develop elite young talent to strengthen the squad and sustain excellence, leading with integrity, champion ethical standards, strong governance, and financial sustainability, i.e. reinvesting in the team while keeping tickets affordable. And then also lastly, but maybe not the most important, but fans first, engage, consult, and collaborate with supporters and their representatives to build loyalty, fashion, and success on and off the pitch. Go ahead, Dave. You want to come in?
Yeah, I was going to say, I do think that last one is probably one of the most important. Jack,
sorry, I kind of misphrased that. Yeah.
Because I think, that's why fans are so angry. we see the shit we see on the football pitch. Everything else, it looks like the whole club's imploding, and no one wants to come out and communicate, which then stinks of a lack of leadership or strong leadership within the group. And then, everyone else is just left to make up their own devices, even in terms of, you can see clearly we're not getting the rub of the green with referees on the football pitch. It's starting to boil over with frustration amongst the players now, just starting to get reckless and taking cards left, right, and center. They won't come out and put pressure on the referees and stuff like that. That is one of the most important aspects, is starting this communication and, sort of coming out publicly to defend the club like other owners have done. And at the end of the day, there's no excuse for them. A lot of the other owners in the Premier League are new in their club compared to how long Enoch has had Tottenham Hotspur and stuff like that. Yeah, they give us the least backing out of many club ownerships and stuff like that in terms of all around, all across the board, coming out defending the club and stuff like that. So that is very, very important. When it comes to number 3, it's not even about future-proofing the success. It's literally just about creating a pathway to bring some of these players through. That's what it is. There is no pathway, and that was blocked up even more by Johan Lang when he went out and spent 40 million on Archie Gray, another 30-odd million on Udeberg, and players like that, when we already had a really good crop of under 21 players. But the reason why they're being shifted out on loan is because there is no pathway for them into the team, because it's always so bloated, and we've already got senior players out on loan and stuff like that. So until they sort that out, but that's the big thing. It's not really about future-proof, and if you create a pathway, you will future-proof anyway. But look, when it comes to, the supporters' trust, I think, fair play to them. And, the first one is obviously the most important: commitment to winning, investing with the levels needed to be able to secure league and cup success. You do that, I guarantee you conversations around prices of tickets go out the window, because if you're winning and you're lifting trophies, people will pay anything to be there. It drives them mad.
Yeah. Sean Maddox, though, seems to feel slightly differently about the supporters' trust. He's saying, what do they actually do? Seems like the club, pretending they care about the engagement with the fans. He's also saying, how do you future-proof success when we don't currently have any success at the minute?
Just on the trust, on the first comment there from Sean, it's a comment I see a lot of people make, but the trust do very, very good work for, disabled people and stuff like that, to make sure they have access to the games and stuff. There is a lot of good the trust do, but you also have to understand their position there as well. With Daniel Levy there and all before, anyone that put pressure on that guy was just ousted from the club, ousted from having any communication and stuff like that. So there is a part where they can't be like, for instance, like me. When I get angry, everyone knows about, and I'll say what I feel. You can't have a trust member walking in there and doing that, because the club will never, ever engage with them anyway. And at the end of the day, I prefer to have them in there and getting what little they can out of them, rather than not have anyone in no engagement whatsoever. So I think you have to understand that the trust is in a position where it's a bit more give and take.
Yeah. To you on this one, Colin, I mean, they're going to be asking fans to respond to a survey so that they have some polling to show to the THFC directors. Any of these that you feel like you would be giving really low marks to? When I actually took part in the poll, I kind of just gave low marks for pretty much all of these principles here, from the commitment to winning all the way to the fans being put first and foremost. So do you agree with these principles maybe that they've done? Would you add anything, take away anything?
It's the first time I've seen it, to be perfectly honest with you. I do know the work that the Supporters Trust have done in the background. They do a lot of good work in the background, and at least they tried to keep Daniel Levy honest, and I do respect that the work that they do. I don't have any agenda against them whatsoever. But when you were reading that out, I just felt like a Christmas wish list for every club on the planet. I genuinely thought that was way too vague. It's like that could be anybody's survey for any club. Is that not what every club wants? Like I didn't see the point.
Do you think it has to be more specific to us as a club? Do you think?
Absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But that'll be dismissed. I know if I came into a meeting with a list like that, I'd be laughed out of the room. That's way too. I commit to winning. What does that even mean? I know they try and qualify it to say invest to the level needed to secure league and cup success. Who's actually done that in the last 20 years? Yeah, it's a handful of clubs. Like that somebody's going to turn around and just rip that to shreds. Somebody who knows what they're talking about, and is saying the club, yeah, well, that's obviously what we're trying to do. We need to grow within the rules. We need to grow within, the environment that we're placed in financially. So we can't just turn around and switch on a tap and invest to the level needed. What level? Like it just, like invest to the level needed to secure league and cup success. League and cup success. So they want to win the league. How many billions is that going to take? And how many years? It doesn't even give a time frame.
Mhm.
So they can say,
you could
yeah,
also
we'll do
argue.
that in 20 years' time. Yeah, no problem. Bye. Next meeting. It's way too vague.
But you can make the argument, though, Colin, as well, that we do spend money. You know, we spend a lot of money if you look at it in terms of other clubs and stuff. We just spend
That's what I'm saying. And we haven't, like, so we spend a lot of money, but it hasn't led to securing league and cup success. Right.
Sure.
So how much more money do we have to spend in order to secure? Who's going to sign up to that? I wouldn't. I think that's pointless. Unless a survey, and I do have a marketing background, is to the point and to get the answers that you require, they're way too attract and retain talent. How? You know, what do we want? What do they want when somebody's we're doing that? We built the best training ground in the world to try and attract talent and retain it. Future-proof success. Who's going to sign up to that? Pointless. I understand what they're trying to do. They're far too vague. Far too vague. Too wide.
Sounds like, Philip, that Colin is practically accusing them of almost using ChatGPT to come up with the 5 principles here, that they're all just far too vague.
It probably could be right. I mean, I think know that the Supporters Trust are a very well-meaning bunch of men and women, and they're the best interest of the clubs that has. But to be honest with you, the club is not going to bend over backwards to do a lot of these things. They'll pay lip service to them, and they'll make out they're doing the best thing they can. At the end of the day, it's a cosmetic exercise. The club will carry on the way they've been carrying on for the last 20 years, and the Supporters Club will not change. They might change very small cosmetic things, but the main thrust of things, like quite rightly, how can you talking about winning the league and the cup? We've got one cup in 18 years. Sorry, I'm just going to have to change location here for a minute.
All good.
The troops are coming.
I've been evicted because the wife has people coming in here. So,
while you change location, I'll throw this back at Colin quickly. Dennis Daly says Colin does not understand that these are principles by definition. They will be broad because they are principles. What would you say to that, Colin?
Well, I'll always greatly accept the fact that I need more education because every day is a school day. I just can't see that going in, to talk about a specific club. I do understand principles. Like, is that not what the principle of the club is already founded on? Trying to win things. That's like, so you're just asking them to sign up to stuff they're already trying to do. I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing the point, and I'd be first to apologize if I am. I don't think I need educating in terms of how a meeting goes at high level. Been there, done that. It's way too broad. The principles are just way too broad. We need to talk about specifics about what will make our club work for our supporters, for our fans, for our players, for future generations. To make sure they're sustainable. All those other things. This is way too broad. How do you do it? There's no point in saying, sure, I could say that. Tomorrow, boys, I want to go out and I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. Well, unless I go out and I earn the money and I can, meet the Ferrari buyer's guide and all their principles, whatever, it's not going to happen. So I need a plan to make that happen. I can say it. Lads, I'm going to go out and buy a Ferrari tomorrow.
I do understand the point you're making, that they are very broad principles and that maybe it should be sort of Tottenham specific to our issues right now, in terms of, in order to progress and that. So I do understand the point you're making. I think Dennis Daly is coming from where he says under Levy, he just wanted 40. He did not actually want to win the league, which, I can understand that point of view, that maybe, that was Levy's remit. That's why he did sack a lot of managers if it looked like they weren't be able to secure that sort of famous top four to a certain degree. But, I can understand.
I'm not saying that every one of those principles is too wide, and I understand what Dennis is saying there, but I turn it around. Right? Just turn that around. That's a piece of paper you go into a meeting with. They'll ask you, I'll ask the people listening and watching this podcast, show me evidence that they haven't tried to do all of those things. And that's what's going to happen in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We're spending money.
Yeah. Well, I actually gave them pretty low marks for almost all of them. The commitment to winning, I feel like, is, almost my entire time at Spurs always felt like quite low. And in terms of attracting talent, I don't think we've really done that for quite some time, to be honest. It doesn't feel like we're ever in the market for some of the best players. We've probably done an okay job at retaining our talent. We don't seem to sell our players for very much. If anything, we almost hold on to them for too long. So perhaps that might be changing in the new administration. The future proofing of success with the youth talent. We have a lot of great youth that Parachi was able to change in and around the football club, but we've not shown them any pathway whatsoever to actually come into the first team. So I feel like that was also quite low marks from me. And then the leading with integrity, I actually felt like the club for the most part, does okay in some of those areas. They do a lot of great promo videos of how they help out the community and whatnot. But the last part about keeping tickets affordable, I think we all know that they're probably one of the worst in the Premier League when it comes to that regard. And then engaging and consulting with supporters, for the most part, it's been pretty terrible up until hopefully the new administration or the Enoch 2.0 or the Lewis family, now that they're rebranding themselves as that. We'll see if that changes, but that's also been quite low. So I agree with Colin that I think these are all extremely vague, but even despite being vague, maybe this is a real damning indictment of them. But the fact that they are so vague, I still feel like they are actually performing quite low in terms of
it's too easy
these
to give low
attributes.
marks, so it'll be a meaningless piece of paper by the time it's finished.
Even if it is vague, you'd think you would then be able to do better if it was vague. If it were more specific, then you'd probably find it easier to give them low marks. But the fact that it's still vague and they're still performing, at least in my opinion, quite low in all of these brackets of principles, I think probably says a lot about the club. But I guess this is what they're going to be asking the new administration or the Lewis family to be performing by.
Be interesting to see what they say.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add to this, or move on to maybe the last question? Sounds like
Philip?
No. Sorry about that. I lost the train of thought on that. I'll just reiterate. I think the Supporters Trust are doing a great job in the limited power, if you like, that they have. I mean, they're never going to do anything earth shattering that's going to change things for the better, and we can only hope that the raising of the salary cap, if that's they're going to start paying players a little bit more, might attract a better level of player to us. And that's why I'm beginning to think that what sort of money Gallagher's gone on. Like he joined so quickly. There was probably not the usual haggling over the wages and whatever. So maybe things are moving in the right direction there. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe. We'll just take these two comments here quickly. Kieran says, lads, from a footballing point of view, is the new stadium a help or a hindrance to the club? Look, personally, I think it is a help in terms of all the finances it brings in. It's just, are we spending that finances on the right sort of players and the right sort of caliber of players? You would argue not. In terms of the depth around it, it is spread out long term, so it's not like we're strangled immediately and all our money has to go to repayments and stuff like that. And look, with the likes of the concerts and the NFL, I know there's uproar about it, that we just wanted to be a football stadium and stuff, but that all does bring in money, which this football club, needs to keep operating, because with the way finances are going in football, it's going up and up and up and up. It's just now, how are we going to use them finances to put ourselves in the best position on the football pitch? And also, to be fair, Kieran, it makes it a lot more easier for worldwide fans to be able to get tickets and get into the stadium, whereas before, trying to get tickets for White Hart Lane was absolutely a nuisance. So, I do think overall it is a massive help. It's just we're not using the finances correctly to, get the right football team on the pitch. And Peter says, I am somewhat concerned they're bringing Gallagher in and not extending Paulinia. Any concern with that happening? I hope not. Well, I hope not as well. I know there was something I read there a week ago, Peter, where it said they were going to sort of reassess, Paulinia at the end of the season and, sort of take it from there. Look, for me, I think it should be a no-brainer. I think we should be bringing him in, keep that experience in around, that bit of leadership and stuff like that. And you would hope that they wrap it up at the end of the season, because then all of a sudden you're going into the summer, you've got Bentancur, Paulinia, Gallagher. Probably only need to add one more to that, that sort of ball player field. And then you've got decent options for that double pivot if that's the way Frank wants to play moving forward. And if he's here beyond the end of the season, if not, you could only imagine another manager walking in will be happy with them options. So hopefully we take him up on that. Big up, Peter and Kieran.
I think from Kieran's question there, my interpretation of that question is from a footballing point of view. What I thought you were going to say was all the points you raised were brilliant, Dave. What I actually thought he meant when I read it first was, did it help us play better football or worse football? And I think it actually hindered us, which is where I thought you were going to go, because I think we've created such a wonderful stadium that the opposition enjoy it. and it's not quite the from a footballing point of view, we probably broke up all the old gang that were together and created atmosphere in White Hart Lane, and then spread them out across the new facility. And then we've got such a beautiful facility that nobody feels intimidated when they come to the new stadium. And all that does is help the opposition rather than help us.
Yeah. No, I agree. From a footballing point of view, probably it hinders us. It's like, we've done a tour of the stadium, Jack. The away change rooms are very, very comfortable. Usually your away dressing rooms, you're supposed to put the bare minimum in it and make it nice and small, nice and tight to already sort of try and make them feel uncomfortable before they even get out on the football pitch. But, with how our stadium is, we do make them very, very comfortable when they come here, nice, relaxed. And, it's an arena at the end of the day. So it's all self-motivating them before they even get out on the pitch and that at the end of the day. But I would argue, have the club gone a long way since the stadium opened to help the atmosphere? No, it's only now they're trying to engage with fan groups to try and improve that atmosphere. But you'd also argue if we had something like we had under Pochettino, a run like that where we had a couple of good seasons, that place would be absolutely electric. And then it would start, being that fortress that it's supposed to be. But with all the finances you're raking in and you don't put a good standard on the football pitch, now all of a sudden it's just anyone could come here, roll up and take 3 points.
Yeah. I think our version of...
I think we're being too nice.
Yeah.
We're too nice to referees on the pitch when we get decisions given against us. We see to roll over and take anything that's going. Like Dave said, the dressing room at the new stadium for the away team should have bare boards. Don't be giving them sauna baths and all this sort of stuff. Make them feel uncomfortable the minute they get there, and then carry that on when it goes out onto the pitch. But I think in creating the best stadium that there is, I think we've just been a little bit too generous to the opposition, and we're also on the pitch we're too generous to the opposition as well.
I think our version of making the away team uncomfortable is having one less cryo chamber and one less sauna for them to go into than the actual home dressing room, or one less hot tub for them to be in. Instead of 3 hot tubs, they only get 2. That's like our version of making them uncomfortable. So by the looks of things, but we're going to finish things off here with some members' questions. DY saying, you can't buy your way out of a crisis. Is this true? I don't think that's true, to be honest, Philip. I feel like, if you spend money correctly, you can easily get yourself out of a crisis. And look at all the teams that have all this investment coming from, various owners, that are much lower down in terms of the English pyramid. They're climbing up and up and up. Wrexham, Birmingham City, plenty of sides, right? Where if you invest enough money and you do it in the right areas, surely you can repair yourself.
True.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that was blaming me. So yeah,
maybe I answered the question.
Look what Manchester City were before the Etihad took over.
Yeah.
A struggling team. So money does bring you success if it's used in the right way. And okay, they broke the rules, and up to now they've got away with it. But money talks, and maybe our money hasn't been used just in the right way.
Then maybe I'll throw this one since I actually answered the question. Philip, I'll throw this back at you. Do you think we'll sign a new striker with Richarlison being out for nearly 2 months?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think we need to. We can't rely on Solanke's fitness and Munia, what do you call him? Kolo Minar. I don't remember his name. He's been that anonymous. I can't even remember his name. He hasn't done anything bar score that goal in the Champions League,
I had such high hopes for him.
Yeah,
Jesus, he's gone off the boil. Something terrible.
Yeah.
And
we need a striker. We definitely need
a striker.
Yeah. And let's hope some of that 150 million that's left is going to be used to do that.
Why would you say that? Like, why did they come out and tell everybody how much money they had? I know. Jesus.
Anyway.
Don't get me started.
For you here, Colin, do you think Spurs fans have our expectations too high this season when you consider league form has been a problem for now nearly 2 seasons, and maybe with a new manager, you give them a season or 2 instead of just sacking when things don't go quite right? As I said all along, it's down to the board to provide the players, so ultimately they should go. Come on, you Spurs. Are our expectations too high?
Right. Well, I don't want to answer for anyone and offend people, but from the second sentence down, I agree with all of that. 100%. I mean, we have had a significant problem in the league for a long time, and the European Cup paper, I couldn't agree with that anymore. That's a great articulation of exactly how I feel. It's also how I feel in the background about Frank. not necessarily Frank. I want to leave the characters out of it. About changing the manager when we run into a problem, when we are trying to invest in a lot of change and to make the club work correctly. And I think I did make that point in previous podcasts. It is up to the board to give the manager the right tools to do that. That's their job, to go out and get the right people, the right playing pieces for on the pitch. So but I think that there's a lot of conversation to be had around expectation. I mean, as a non-paying, non-attending fan, my expectations are pretty low, other than just not get a slagging at work the next day. But if I was a paying fan, I think my expectations would be a lot higher. I think the environment of the stadium makes your expectations higher. I think the price you're paying makes your expectations higher. And probably winning a European competition makes your expectations higher. But are all of those things based in reality of where we are now? And I don't think that they are. I think our expectations are probably a little bit too high, considering the amount of change, considering how bad our form has been. I would agree with a lot of that.
I'm going to say I slightly disagree.
I do too.
And the reason why is because I do think many fans lowered their expectations coming into this season in terms of, what they'll be happy getting out of it. I don't think it has been that top four and a cup precedent that has been set on the likes of Jose, Conte, Ange Postecoglou and stuff. I think many people did lower their expectations this season, but I'd also make the argument, I think the last two managers have lowered expectations in around this football club because they just haven't been of the right caliber. Good managers can paper over the cracks, and there's the ones we should have backed, the likes of your Joses, your Contes. If we'd done that, because they initially came in, got great green shoots out of it, and it's when we didn't give them the 11 investment they needed is when it sort of went tits up there, halfway through the following year. And they're the guys that maybe we should have seen to the back end of the season and went again under. And I would argue, but good managers will bring expectations.
Yeah, I think our expectations were already lowered, to be honest, DJ, going into the season. But then also with the amount of money that we've spent this summer, and we spent more money on Thomas Frank in one summer than we have on plenty of previous managers by the looks of things. So we already were lowering our expectations. And then I would say Thomas Frank has been given, in terms of transfers, more than plenty of other managers. And I would say, if anything, he's vastly underperforming those already quite low expectations, if you ask me. And again, like with the amount of money we do just spend, then the expectations will rise. If we were spending no money at all, then of course we would feel like, maybe we shouldn't have that high of aspirations. But with where Spurs have been in the past and how much money we've been spending, I feel like that comes with then added pressure and expectations.
So I think at the start of every season, every Spurs fan, and I know I'm one of them, at the start of every season, especially with a new manager coming, you think this is it. This is going to be our season. Then about 3 weeks later, you're deflated. You're like a balloon that somebody put a pin into, and you're back down to no Christ, same old, same old. So that's the way I feel at the moment. My expectations for this season are mid-table at best. And
I think
no success.
I think there's a fair conversation to say, should Spurs fans adjust original expectations coming into this season? Because I do think a lot of them lowered them in the first place. But given what we've seen unfold, maybe there
weren't low enough.
A conversation. Yeah, but maybe there's a conversation where we are now. Maybe this is where DJ's getting at. Do we need to maybe just sort of temper expectations, or that? But where I refuse to get into is my expectations were low coming into this season in the first place. I sort of said, if we can get any sort of European competition out of it, I'll be happy with that. I'm not putting top four on the guy, but I'm not going to start lowering him into bottom half of the table. I'm just refusing to do that. I'm never going to do that. We're Tottenham Hotspur. We don't deserve to be down there.
No.
These are from Artist T. Not Tottenham related, but for the three Irish lads, how impressed are you with Keith Andrews and what he's done at Brentford? Philip or Colin?
Yeah, he's done very well, actually. I mean, I know we've seen Keith Andrews. He was a part of the Irish setup there for a few years under, what do you call him, Kenny. So he was a hard act to follow at Brentford. I mean, let's face it, Thomas Frank did very well at Brentford to get them into the Premiership and to keep them there, whatever, but that seems to be his level. I think everyone expected Brentford to struggle this season, and they've been one of the surprises of the season. I mean, they've knocked up some great results and they're scoring goals for fun. And I'm delighted for the lad. I think he's a good lad. He's come up through the ranks, playing not for any great team during playing career, and good luck to him. And as long as he doesn't take any more points off Tottenham, then get on with it.
Yeah, I'm super impressed with him. But I suppose it is kind of what you'd expect from Brentford because they're such a well-organized club.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to drop like a stone, nor did I expect, which is the impressed part, for him to be where he is with that club in terms of the table. I think he's done an excellent job.
Yeah, I've been very impressed. If anything, I think it's quite damning to Thomas Frank how well Keith Andrews has actually done. I think it's actually not very good for him because
He was holding them back.
Everybody had Brentford, including myself, actually. I actually was worried for them going into this season. I actually thought maybe there was a chance they would fall into some sort of relegation scrap, but they've done the complete opposite, actually. So I think that's where I'm actually a little bit worried for Thomas Frank that Keith Andrews has done such a good job. Another one for the Irish lads. Would you trust Frank to manage your favorite Irish club? He'd probably get Shamrock relegated.
No. I wouldn't have him anywhere near my I don't ever want to see the guy at any of my clubs again. I don't want to see him at Tottenham. Don't ever want to see him manage in Ireland or even get the Ireland job. I couldn't take it.
No. I'm same here. No, he won't. I mean, Thomas Frank, when he leaves Tottenham, he'll get another job.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably get maybe the likes of Wolves or someone like that. A team that's not too high up in the rankings, but he'll be chastened. He'll have got a different outlook on life once he leaves Tottenham. He'll be all the better for it, I think.
And then he also has another one here saying, does it concern you that it's pointing to the fact if Chirpy forbid we lose or draw to West Ham, they don't plan on sacking him? Actually, we'll start using that if Chirpy forbid.
I think that's brilliant, by the way. 10 out of 10 for that.
Yeah.
I'll take that one if you don't mind, Jack.
Please.
Yeah, I think as we sit here right now today, I don't think there's any plans to get rid of Frank until the summer, like we touched on. But I think if that protest is loud and noisy, and if results don't go our way for the next, I think they'll have no choice but to reconsider. So I think you lose. Yeah, I think he could easily go if the heat just gets too hot.
I can see Nuno getting the sack if West Ham lose, though.
Oh yeah,
he's a dead man walking.
If we lose, which I don't think we will. West Ham are pretty poor this year. I mean, if we lose, then my God, we're sort of pulled into that relegation scrap almost. But if we lose, I think it's going to get so toxic with fans. I think the board will have absolutely no option. I was surprised during the week when Sky Sports said it's not quite toxic enough. It's like I'm sitting there going, "What do you want? A pitch invasion?" I don't get it. It's madness. It's already very toxic. So you lose to West Ham, he's a dead man walking.
Philip, I know that we're already kind of pushing you for time here, so if you wanted to bow out now.
I have to be across the road in 2 minutes' time, so I better go. Listen, it's been a pleasure being on. A pleasure to meet you, Colin, and we'll do it again.
Same to you, Philip.
Great to have you back, Philip.
Yeah, everyone's always welcome back, Philip. A lot of people love having you on.
And onwards and upwards, that's all we can say.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Philip.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
See you, lads.
Come on, you Spurs. The 5 principles, will they live on? Does it concern you? Oh, sorry, I didn't forget about you, Jack. What did you think of the Adeyemi links and that there are other Bundesliga players we should target? In my opinion, Angelo Stiller, Afonso Tavares, or Josip Stanisic. I don't think we'd be able to prize any Bayern players away, to be perfectly honest. Artist at this moment in time. And in terms of Adeyemi, I'm not really the biggest fan of him. I think there was so much hype for him when he first came to the Bundesliga, when he was at Salzburg, but since he's gone to Dortmund, he's not really hit the ground running. And I think the way that people probably expected him to or wanted him to. And I have heard that part of the reason he's potentially leaving the Bundesliga has to do with something with his missus wanting to live in London or something like that. And I'm not really into that sort of thing. I think he should be thinking about his career.
If he's driving that transfer, don't want him.
Yeah, that was some rumor that I saw. I'm not sure how true it is, but if it is in any way remotely true, I'm not going to take any player like that. And like I said, I don't think he's lived up to the hype, to be honest. And then with Stiller, I've seen him play. I don't think he's as amazing as some people have made him out to be. I know a lot of Twitter tacticos, when they look at his stats, seem to think that he's really great. I think he's a fine player, but I think we need to see more from him. And I think it's more, he has a really good manager over at Stuttgart at the moment in time. Colin, what's for dinner? Last, not least.
I've already had dinner, thankfully,
Nice.
provided by my beautiful wife yet again, and it was spaghetti bolognese.
Oh,
There you
nice.
go.
And it was a For any of you that are seasoned spaghetti bolognese consumers, it's always better the second day, the sauce, always. So this was 2-day-old spaghetti sauce, and it was absolutely delicious.
Homemade or jarred?
Oh, homemade.
Oh, lad, yeah, that's the job. She's a keeper. She's
Oh,
a
yeah,
keeper, that's for
absolutely, yeah.
sure.
I will not be letting her go. There's no transfer window for my wife.
And look, for me, I'm just gonna have boring chicken, spuds, and veg, trying to keep it relatively healthy, you know. So that's what I'm having.
Very nice, very nice. I have no idea what I'll be having, to be perfectly honest. It will be a game time decision. Artist tea. As we're wrapping up, though, everybody, if you could, love to get this to 100 likes. We're only on 80 at the minute, and there've been well over 200 people, at least on YouTube, watching us, and then well over 300 on Twitter. So we would really appreciate if you guys did smash the like button for us. At least get this to 100 likes. I'd like to think that at least half of you guys enjoyed the show. Really do appreciate you guys, and we'll see you all tomorrow for all the previewing of what could be a very big game for Thomas Frank in order to get fans potentially back on side, or at least not have us completely lose our rag at this stage of the season. Appreciate you all. Thank you all. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
Come on, you
Spurs.
Spurs.